In case you were wondering, I have a little secret that can really help you cut the cost on the expenses that you have to pay each and every month pertaining to your household. If you're ready, let's go.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone.
Hi everyone, it's Sophia Melone, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. Welcome to day 8 of the Debt Demolishing series, where we have been covering the essential steps that I had taken in order to help me get out of over $330,000 of debt in less than 6 years. With this day, I have a secret gem that I want to share with you guys that you probably didn't even think was possible when it comes to your recurring bills, like your utilities and those things that you need to have in order to be able to function in your household. Yeah, that stuff, there's a way to reduce it. So with me being a caregiver to my mom and having to be responsible for 2 different households, it was very challenging to manage the utilities and the bills that were occurring on her side, as well as the utilities and the bills that were happening on my side, in order for me to really be able to focus on paying off my debt. So I had to get strategic back to step 7 and how to kind of scrub your expenses. One of the tactics that I learned to help lower my utility bills was to literally unplug everything. Now, this may sound super cheap for you, but I'm telling you, it will work. I did this exercise where I went around my house and I unplugged everything that was not in use, everything that I was not using at the moment, and that I did not really want to quote unquote reset by unplugging it. I unplugged it. So that meant lights, that meant lamps, that meant microwaves, that meant reclining sofas, that meant printers, computer equipment, except for my main computer. It just depends. If it was a laptop, then I unplugged it. But like my main computer, I kind of kept it on. I didn't bother to unplug it. But I literally unplugged everything. I unplugged everything when it was not in use, even chargers. I want you guys to think about this. Even though you have an item plugged up and it may not necessarily be on, you got to understand that it is still drawing current. It is still drawing current. So that means that it is costing you money on your electric bill. So I did a test to test this out to see if it would really work. I looked at the last electricity bill that I had received in the mail. It was about $130 something. I looked at the billing cycle for that particular bill to see what would be the time range. And I waited until that date range started. And I said, I'm going to unplug everything. I literally went around from room to room. There were lamps plugged in that was not in use. There were lights that were on that were not in use. There were microwaves that was plugged in because I didn't have like the one that was like embedded. I had like the countertop kind of microwave that was plugged in, but it wasn't in use. So I just went from room to room. I went from room to room seeing what was plugged in but wasn't on. And if it wasn't on, I unplugged it. And I did this over and over and over, day after day after day, for the entire 31-day cycle. And let me tell you what happened when I got that next bill. When I got my next bill, my electric bill went from $131 in the previous month to $13.10. $13.10 by doing this for a 31-day period. So when I tell you that I was unnecessarily incurring expenses of over $120 a month, it dawned on me like, oh my gosh, I have been wasting electricity. So the step that I took for day 8 was, or step 8, was to conserve energy as much as possible. What I want you to do right now is take a look at where you are. If you are in your home, take a look around the room that you are in right now and just look at the sockets. Look at all of the sockets. Look at every single socket and tell me what is plugged in. Do you have a charger that's plugged in with no phone connected to the charger? Do you have a lamp that's plugged in where the lamp is not on? Do you have a stereo that's plugged in where the stereo is not playing? Do you have a TV or DVD that's on or that's plugged in that's not playing? Think about these things. I want you to begin to be conscious of how you are using your electricity that's costing you money every single month. So when I learned that I could save all of that money by unplugging stuff, you ain't think I unplugged stuff. I unplugged stuff like it was nobody's business. And what was crazy was I actually told a client of mine to do the same thing because we were going through her numbers. She had like her electricity bill was really high. And, you know, she had a lot of people living in her home. So it depends on who you are and where you are and how many people that you have within your household. They had about 5, it was like a 5-person household. So the electricity bill was about $600, over $600. And she was kind of complaining about it, like, oh my gosh, my electric bill is so high. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay. I told her what I just told you guys to do. Look around the room that you're in right now and tell me how many things are plugged in that is not in use. And she was able to identify like, oh, the kids' games, the kid had their PlayStations and, you know, all of the whatever the kid games were all plugged in. All of these things were plugged in and it wasn't in use. The kids were nowhere in sight. I told her to walk into another room and tell me what was plugged in. And she was able to find all of these things that were drawing current because it was plugged in the socket, but nobody was there to use it. So I told her to do the same thing for a 30 or 45-day period. Go around and just unplug what's not being used and test it out. And I know it's going to be challenging, especially for those of you who may have younger kids. They may forget, you know, they may not really understand like, oh, I got to unplug this. And sometimes with kids, you really don't want them messing with the socket anyway. But I challenged her, if you see something, just go behind them and just unplug it if it's not in use. Just go behind and unplug it if it's not in use. She did this. And let me tell you, her bill went from $600 to $250. That is a $400 difference, just about. So can you imagine how much money you are willingly giving to the utility companies because you're not being mindful of how you're using your electricity within your house? So just because your utility is a necessary expense for you to be able to live within your house, there's a way that you can reduce it if you just begin to be mindful about those things. And you can apply that same concept with water. Whew, let me tell y'all something. When my mama was staying with me and she would flush the toilet like 5 and 6 times in a row because of her mental capacity, she would flush the toilet 5 and 6 times in a row. She would turn the faucet on, leave the faucet on, and it'll be running, running, running. And I'm telling you, when she was here with me, my bill quadrupled by the time with her being here just because of the use of the water. So if you notice that water is constantly running, you feel like water is being wasted, just be a little bit more mindful of how you're using it to see how you could reduce those costs if you tend to have a high water bill all the time. So just think about where you are, look at your own utility bills and look at your own utility usage to see what you can do to kind of trim it down a little bit. If you're not looking at your utility bills, they tell you what your usage is per period. And they also tell you how it changed from the previous month so that you're able to see the trend. So one of the things that I began to look at when it came to not only my water bill, but my electric bill, of course, you know that in the summertime, your electric bill is going to go up a little bit more because you're using the AC if you have an HVAC system. So of course, the utility around the electricity is going to be a little bit higher because of that. And you just look for the trends. So if you're looking in the trends and you're saying, okay, I know around this month or around this time frame, my electricity bill is probably going to be higher because we're going to be using the AC. That's okay, but still be mindful to see how you can offset that hike or offset that increase by unplugging other things around the house that's not in use. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. If you do it, you will free up so much money. You will be like, oh my gosh. So your challenge, your work, your growth work is to go in every single room in your home, look to see what is being plugged in that is not actively being used, unplug it. Do this for a 45-day period, 60-day period if you want. And I want you to tell me what the difference was, because I'm telling you, it's a game changer, especially now in this season that summer, we're moving into fall, so it's not as hot anymore. You need to open up the windows, turn off the AC, let some fresh air in. That's going to help with your reduction in your energy bills. So conserve energy as much as possible, conserve water as much as possible, but don't allow it to, be to your detriment where you're completely uncomfortable in your home. I just want you to be mindful of how you're using your utilities to see how you can reduce it. So that's all I have for day 8 of the Debt Demolishing series. I know this was a gem. This is going to be a game changer for you. So I just can't wait until you implement it and you do it. If you are new to the series, welcome. And if you haven't already, go back and make sure that you check out day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and day 7. And then invite somebody else into the room so they can get into this juice. Your financial prosperity awaits you. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the like button. And thank you for allowing this message to reach more and more people. Let's get debt free, y'all. Bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia